Practicing meditation. It can be helpful to know something about the difference between meditation practice and the results of that practice, what we could call realization of some kind or another. Many times when a building is being put up, when it's being built, it requires scaffolding to complete it. And when the building is complete, the scaffolding on the outside is removed. So meditation is a little like this. For instance, if we play music, if we learn to play music, we practice playing scales and other complex finger and musical exercises. Yet the scales and the finger exercises are not considered the final music. We don't even call it music. Meditation is a lot like this. As kids, we learn to draw the alphabet, but we don't write out the alphabet often later on once we've learned it. Meditation is like this too. In almost every area of life learning at any rate, some practice is involved, but the actual form of the practice is not usually equivalent to the final result. It's just practice. Meditation is exactly like this. In fact, many call their meditation period each day their practice, as in, quote, I just did my practice. So please take that word practice to heart. Learning meditation involves practice, but the practice itself is not the result of meditation any more than playing scales on a guitar is the result of the final music we play. It is rather just vice versa. The music is the result of, or it's enhanced by the practice. Some form of awareness is the desired result of our shamatha meditation practice. So, my point is to not fixate on your practice of meditation as if that were the result of the meditation, and don't expect the form of the practice to also be the form of the result of that practice any more than the rubbing of two sticks together is the fire that we are trying to achieve, that we seek. The fire results from rubbing the two sticks together, but the fire is not itself the process. It's the result of the process. Shamatha, or awareness meditation practice, is not the same as the eventual awareness that results from shamatha meditation. Let me repeat that. Shamatha, the practice of awareness, learning the meditation practice, it's not the same as the eventual awareness itself that will result after we have practiced and learned to actually meditate. When we first learn to meditate, we don't yet know, and we cannot possibly have a correct idea of what that awareness is without actually having the awareness itself. So it's really easy to fall into the habit of expecting awareness to somehow be just like our practice. Maybe better, only better. Meditation practice is just that. I'm repeating, practice. And it's not the awareness itself that eventually comes from practicing. Think about that. Shamatha practice is like the scaffolding on the building. It's something that will help shape our realization, but that ultimately will be removed. Eventually we won't need it, at least as we know it now. Now, this is not to be interpreted as we don't need to practice. Without learning how to practice, we will get nowhere at all. Of course we need to practice, but practice, if it's too forced and becomes too rigid, is counterproductive. We need to leave some room for our awareness to grow. We need to leave the door open for what we do not yet know And most of all, we need to know that we don't know what awareness is, because we've not experienced it yet, or realization or enlightenment. So think about it. By definition, we have no idea. Otherwise, we would already be aware to that degree. This is a huge conundrum that each of us has to find our way around or through. We each know something about what practice is, but we do not yet know what the result of that practice is. So at the very least, we need to know and accept that we don't know. And we need to know also something about what it is we do not know. And in that way, we leave the door open for spontaneity and freshness. At least there's a question mark in our mind. We don't want to paint ourselves into a corner with our practice by assuming we know what the outcome of our practice is supposed to be, because we don't. If we view our practice as just that, practice, but not the real thing, it helps us to keep in mind that our practice is not just going to turn into awareness all by itself one day. Practice is not awareness. It's just practice so that we can become more aware. Like the workmen take down the scaffolding when a building is completed. A day will come when each of us will realize the difference between our practice and what we're practicing to achieve, the result of that practice, which is some form of enlightenment or awareness or realization or recognition. Practice and awareness are certainly related, but not identical. One of the features of Buddhism is that it's non-theistic, non-theist, which to me means there's nobody up there pulling the strings. I have read and I've been taught that even if the Buddha were here in the same room with us now, he could not simply walk over to us and enlighten us by, for instance, simply touching our forehead. If he could, Buddha and his followers would have enlightened everyone centuries ago, because they actually care for our welfare. It would have gone viral. In fact, the entire Dharma is about Buddha pointing out to us how to do what he did, which what he did was to enlighten himself. But we each have to do the same. We have to enlighten ourselves. No one will ever come along and save us. No one will ever come along to do it for us, no matter how long we wait. Our teachers, even the greatest teachers, like the Buddha himself, can point out the way, but we each have to walk the path ourselves. That's the whole idea. And this especially relates to our meditation practice. If we're practicing because we've been told to practice, if we feel obligated to practice or think we should practice, but are not all that personally motivated to practice, well, nothing much is going to happen. We also have to practice having proper motivation. We know when we're motivated. Our practice will wait for us as long as it takes for us to do it right. And that includes wanting to practice instead of just practicing by rote. If we're just going through the motions, counting the minutes until practice time is over, waiting it out, so to speak, each day, or thinking that tomorrow we will do it better, nothing much is going to happen. Realization is waiting for us to practice correctly. And as the Buddhists point out often, we might have to wait eons, many, many lifetimes if necessary. Shamatha meditation is about resting the mind, or letting the mind rest, for sure, but it's also about learning to get to gradually know the mind in all of its qualities. we need to actually inquire into our minds. We need to be interested, to be alive in our getting to know the mind. We can agree that the whole point of meditation is awareness of the nature, the true nature of the mind. And we can know that we actually have to develop that awareness ourselves. But if we cut corners with our meditation practice, or can't manage to really get into it, or are paralyzed so that we can't give like 100%, it's sad to say nothing's going to happen to us except nothing. It's so true that our practice waits for us to do it properly, and that's the real catch-22. You can't outwit yourself any more than you can sneak up on a mirror. Now let's talk about something a little bit about off-the-cushion practice. Learning to meditate takes time. If you have trouble practicing, finding the time to practice or run into some of the various roadblocks to practicing, there are ways to supplement your on-the-cushion practice when you are off the cushion during the rest of your day. This is called post-meditation practice. And while it's not a substitute for your regular on-the-cushion practice, post-meditation practice can augment your normal practice a lot. It can also inspire you to practice correctly. Meditation is all about awareness and mindfulness. Mindfulness is about remembering to be aware, and awareness is about actually being aware. If we don't have enough time in our busy day, in our busy schedule, to devote to sitting meditation, or if we are too self-conscious in our meditation, there are things that we can do at other times of the day that may augment our practice. In particular, if we spend a lot of time in front of a computer or on any kind of task that requires actual concentration, we may be able to extend, our daily practice. For example, when you finish your regular meditation session, sitting on the cushion, you get up and return to whatever else you're doing that day. Don't just turn off your meditation like a switch, but be sure to take whatever awareness you can, whatever you've managed to come up with you, take it with you. Mix your meditation with your day-to-day work. If you are doing any work that requires focus and concentration, there's no reason whatsoever why you can't just practice some of the same techniques you use on the cushion, like bringing your mind back to whatever you're focusing on, every time that you become aware that you've been distracted. And while this kind of daily work exercise may lack some of the qualities of on-the-cushion meditation, like remembering to have an intent to benefit all sentient beings through your practice, there's no reason why you can't easily add that to whatever you are doing during the day. If you have a moment in the day when you catch yourself being aware, somehow you've been interrupted or you've popped out of your routine, the work that you're doing, it's very easy to make a simple dedication like this. I quote, "May any merit that I have accumulated today benefit all sentient beings without exception, and may I dedicate this merit in the same way that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas dedicate merit." End quote. Something like that. After making that dedication, then just go back to whatever task you're involved in. Not only is this kind of repeated dedication throughout the day of value to your normal practice, but the dynamic quality of repeating being aware and taking that awareness to your work is also very beneficial to your work. It's also like another form of breathing. You are practicing while you work. As mentioned earlier, Meditation is all about awareness. And the more that we can be aware throughout our entire day and every moment, the better our meditation practice will become. Many of us have only a short time to spend on the cushion practicing awareness each day. Many folks may have maybe something like 20 minutes to practice, others a half an hour. It might be rare to have more than 1 hour of free time a day to meditate. If progress in your meditation is measured in terms of the time we practice, for most of us our progress is going to be slow. However, if we can enhance our on-the-cushion practice with various ways of being aware the rest of our day, then we can extend that practice considerably. I used to tell myself when I was growing up and I had to go to church on Sunday that church once a week was never going to get a rascal like me to heaven. In a similar way, meditating for an hour a day is probably not really enough for me. Yet I don't seem to allocate any more time to practice meditation each day than something like that, often less. However, as I begin to find other moments during my workday in which I can see that I am aware, and I can use those moments to refocus on whatever task is at hand, my cumulative practice time actually begins to extend. My teacher has said that even the time it takes to raise a teacup to our lips and take a sip is long enough to have a brief moment of awareness. Think about that. We have an untold number of such moments in a day. Conscious use of these otherwise empty moments to focus on the fact that at that moment we are aware, and then mixing that brief awareness with whatever we have to do at the time can be totally beneficial. Awareness is the very heart of meditation. If we generate some awareness during our regular practice of meditation, of course, that's excellent. But if we can, in addition, begin to fill in the gaps in our awareness through the rest of the day, that's even better. Buddha was totally aware all of the time. For beginners like us, the effort to remain aware can be just too tiring. As this little poem I wrote a long time ago suggests, it's called Testing the Rest. Learning to rest the mind really puts my practice to the test. So sometimes I just need to take a break and simply get some rest. Anyway, you get the idea. All practice requires some effort, and effort is often counterproductive to free awareness. So there's a catch-22 here, as this little poem notes. Here's another poem. It's called The Rest of the Mind. You cannot rest the mind, but you can let the mind rest. Just let go and don't mind the rest. I've found it important to extend my meditation practice off the cushion and throughout the rest of my day. By doing this, I've gone a long way toward compensating for my tendency to cut short my regular meditation periods or to find some quote-unquote good excuse not to practice at all that day, whatever. I'm a genius at rationalization. There's always a little bit of war going on inside of me when it comes to anything that I have to do, even if I'm the one that said I have to do it. Extending my practice off the cushion has been a wonderful way to actually do more practice and to also de-escalate the warring factions within myself about my regular practice times.